All right. What's going on, y'all? It is time for the signal response, my little side hustle to the jam I do with Bill Whittle, the virtue signal, where we talk about what is this thing, virtue? All this virtue signaling going on. Don't we think we should have a standard virtue? How are you defining virtue? So that is what we do. We try to get down to what the nitty gritty of virtue is. That since people want to assume that they're virtuous and stuff like that, being social justice warriors and all that sort of stuff, believing that these things that they're doing are so right and so woke and redeeming. We're not so sure. So we want to do our little part to see if we can bring what virtue is into focus. So that's what we do in the virtue signal. And in the signal response, this is just me showing, I guess, some gratitude, man, for folks who actually tune into the show and think that we're talking about some things that that they appreciate us sharing, and and they give their input, and we're just, and they're part of the process, man, to help bring this stuff into focus, whether they say stuff that we agree with or stuff that we don't. We're at least able to have this dialogue to see if we can just, sharpen it up and bring in a more clear perspective about what these things are. So I'm going to go ahead and get right to reading the comments, the feedback that we got from the episode that we did, basically talking about these transgressions, these racist transgressions of America, that America is still being judged for. And so we wanted to talk about that. And I would even go as far as to say it's this misplaced blame for American transgression. It's not a transgression really of America. These transgressions were upheld by the Democrat Party. These institutions of slavery and second-class citizens and stuff like that. Those things have been, long before the Democrat Party was founded, in America. What's up, y'all? I see y'all coming in. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Folks need to understand, a lot of people think that, America is this innovator of slavery, that slavery began with America. When they think slavery and oppression and stuff like that, America is the place that comes to mind. This is a huge deception. And this is the way the Democrats want to keep it, because this is how Democrats, they use things like this to take a hold, to take control of the country. They want to tear America down and reshape it in their image. But slavery, y'all, even before the Democrat Party, was something that was going on in America. And guess what? It was going on around the world. It wasn't just something that was done in America. Before America, slavery was already happening in South America. It was happening. It was going on in Mexico. It was going on in Cuba. It was going on in France. It was going on all over the place, right? And not just Black folks were enslaved. Most of y'all in the audience, y'all know that. Unfortunately, too many people don't. They just think slavery and they just think Black people, which is racist in itself. It's like some slaves and they just start thinking Black people. It's like, dude, that slavery has touched everybody, right? That's been a global problem for a long time. Slavery going on right now, right? And it's not just Black people. And so, we have people who are just caught up in that. But the problem is now is that Democrats want to keep this thing going. It was bad enough that, with the Civil War, that they fought to keep slavery legal. Now, what Democrats are doing is that they're the ones who imposed this plight, who wanted to keep the institution of slavery going. Now they're using it to gain sympathy votes from the other stuff that they want to do to tear down the country. Democrats are like the gremlins of America. They just want to tear the machine. They just want to tear the machine down. All right, that's who they are, man. Don't feed them after midnight and don't get water on them or something like that. They're just destructive. They're just rebellious people that hate the word of God and they hate the Constitution and they want it. They don't want the rule of God. They want to be able to assume to outvote what God has decreed and make whatever they feel entitled to law. And so that's what we're dealing with the Democrat Party. And these are things that it's hard. It's difficult because you have a lot of Republicans that really don't really know how to fight against the Democrats. Well, because they've been educated by Democrats. Democrats have been in control of the school system and higher learning for what, 40 years? So a lot of these Republicans out there, they don't really know what they're up against because they've been trained by the enemy. Right. So it's been a big part of why Republicans aren't effective at dealing with who they. It's like they can talk about how much they don't like Democrats and their policies all they want, but they don't really know how to fight back against them because that's who they've been educated by. So, and and I know a lot of Republicans don't want to think of that self as them. It's like, no, it just might be you. Well, what about you, Zoe? What is that? Heck no, man. Democrats didn't get to me. I ditched way too much school. Democrats didn't get me. I was hardly in school. So the Lord has found some redeeming value in me playing hooky so much. So anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and get into and thank you guys so much for showing up. I see you in there. Forgive me if I don't call out all the names, but please know that I'm grateful that you guys show up. I'm just trying to stay focused and try to be a focused host. I guess a more focused host than a gracious host. All right, so let's see. Let's and there's a little discourse in some of these content in these comments, and I also want to read off some of the speaking of distractions, yeah, a hot one just showed up. That's that Carrie Rachel. Oh, I like her, right? Man, can I get your phone number? All right. Anyway, back on track here. Let's see. We got Curtis Bryce, and Curtis Bryce says, when idiots talk about the party switch, I ask them to prove it. What Alfonso says about, so yeah, I hear you. It's like, how do you, exactly, how do you prove this party switch? As I always say, it's like, I don't trust people who tell me that I don't trust people who to try to lecture me about a party switch when these people think that genders can switch sides. And there's a lot of people out there who believe these people. And it's like, yeah, that alone, right? And I've written a book about it, y'all. I hope that you guys pick it up. You can listen to it for free on my website, bronzeserpentmedia.com. The book is called The Solid Right Cross. Please get that culture war coaching, y'all. You can listen to it for free or whatever bucks that you might want to drop in the bucket, okay? If you want to leave a donation for it, I greatly appreciate that. But I just want the truth to get out there, and so you can listen to the book for free. You can get it on Audible. That you have to pay for because it's going to have all the bells and whistles, the bookmarks and stuff like that. But if you want to just listen to it for free, it's going to play like an album, right? I hear you. It's frustrating, Curtis. And then Curtis goes on to say, what Alfonso says about honoring your father and mother, I think he nailed it on the head. Be such a good person that everyone thinks that your parents were amazing. Thank you, sir. I was struggling with that concept for a long time. Thank you. And I guess I'm trying to remember, what was it that I was talking about in that episode? Because, we were talking about, people still trying to just curse America for racism and stuff like that. And I guess I may have brought up, how this stuff is like passed on from the parents, and how these sentiments that parents, they carry and they pass on to their kids, they end up being a liability to their kids because their kids just, they're raised up so insecure, especially in the Black community, man. Black kids they're raised up to be insecure. This has been going on for generations. It's a type of insecurity that the Black community is the easiest demographic for Democrats to play to concerning insecurity. It's not about black, white, man, woman, your sexual orientation or anything like that. It's more than Democrats playing to these things to get people to vote for them so they can have more power and they can impose more things that contribute to the decline of our republic. It's about playing to people's insecurities. And once you've tapped into a person's insecurities and you've given them a target to take their insecurities out on, you've got a loyal voter stock, right? And this is how the devil works. The devil, by default, he gets people to he accuses somebody else and gets that person to just distrust them. That way they trust the accuser by default. That's just a human phenomenon in our behavior. That's just what we do. You accuse somebody, therefore, when you make the accusation, that makes you the person who's woke and legit. right? Because you're the one with the virtue to accuse somebody else, to blame somebody else, and it makes you the trustworthy one by default, right? Especially when you play to a person's insecurities. And in the black community are raised up, typically by the parents or parents. Usually it's a single parent, unfortunately. And you're brought up being very insecure, right? An example of that is that in Black culture, whatever you do, if you do something wrong, do something to upset your parents, do something to upset your friends or anything like that, or an enemy or whichever, the first thing that they're going to admonish you for is being Black, right? That's the first thing they're going to curse you for. Then they'll attack the offense that you did, right? Like, say for instance, if you scratch, I talk about this in my audiobook. I hope you guys go get it. Like, say for instance, you accidentally scratch a person's car. The person's not going to get out of his car and say, "Hey man, you scratched my car." It's going to be like, "You black mother," and all the other curse words, but they're going to curse you for being Black first. Or if you're in your house, and your mom told you to clean your room or something like that, and you didn't get your room clean as fast as she wanted to, she's going to curse you for being Black first before she admonishes you for not cleaning your room. I told you to get your Black in the room and clean it. You Black this, you Black that. Why didn't you clean your room? You're gonna be cursed for being Black first. I don't really know of any other nationality that does that, right? If they do, it's very, very minuscule. It's a drop in the bucket compared to, because that's just Black culture. That's just the way it is in Black culture. You are cursed for being Black first. That is your crime before anything else. Then from there, you get admonished for whatever else you did. So Black people typically are raised to be very, very insecure. Just because you're Black, there's already something wrong with you before any white person has ever even said anything to you, right? Before a white person has called you anything or said anything cross to you, your family, your friends who are Black are going to curse you for being Black first. And then they're going to try to tell you that the white folks are racist, right? And don't get me wrong, because there are some, and this is the way the Democrats like it. And the biggest racists that you're going to deal with that are white are typically going to be your Democrats, and they feed on this. They want to keep this going so they can use specifically Blacks, right? Blacks don't have an inherent desire to destroy the country, y'all. We don't, right? We don't. Democrats come in and they engineer that. They target the Black community first, right? They have a special fixation on us, and they get in there with the brainwashing. Like I said, Blacks do not have an inherent desire to destroy the country. We do not have an inherent desire to be butthurt about racism and stuff like that. That stuff is programmed into the Black community. All right. Democrats target us for that, and they use us the most to get that done. So these these are things that we're going to have to deal with in the culture. People think that this can be solved politically. It's not solved politically. All right. Firstly, it's solved spiritually, because these are satanic accusations, right? It's a spell, right, to use this slander on people. And then from there, it's cultural. There's a lot of overhauling that needs to be done, y'all, before you guys can get that sustainable political satisfaction that you want, right? Lots of deep digging to be done. I mean, it's some serious surgery that has to be done, right? And a lot of conservatives, they just don't understand that. They don't get it. They just think people are just supposed to get it. They don't have the patience. They don't have the stamina. They've got too much pride and all that sort of stuff to really deal with the problem. They just think that somebody like Trump is just supposed to come in and drain the swamp as if he wasn't going to get any opposition or anything like that. Oh, I pulled the plug in the bathtub and all the water should just go down. No, it ain't gonna work that way. It's like, a lot of conservatives, they out there pumping their fists for Trump and didn't do the work that would help him. It's like they just expected him to do all the work. Y'all didn't. It's like too many of y'all conservatives, you didn't do Trump any favors. For all your MAGA flags and all your parades that you guys really didn't help the guy. You really didn't. And Trump, dropped the ball himself. And I tried to tell y'all, and that's why we keep having these big racist problems. That's why it's like people get frustrated because I talk about this stuff over and over again. It's like, no, the reason why I keep talking about it over and over again is because it's a problem that keeps on standing, and folks they're not listening to the practical solution for this, and really don't have it's like, do you really have the stamina to do what it takes to kick back against this, right? But anyway, he was talking about struggling with the this all that to say, y'all, um, why he was addressing my comment about honoring your father and your mother, because even though you may have parents like this who have made you, very insecure, whether it's a racial issue, whether it's your gender, or whether it's how you look or how you act or anything like that, and your parents may have, whether your parents were um, alcoholics, or whether your parents were drug addicts, or whether your parents were physically abusive or emotionally abusive, all those sorts of things. When the word of God says honor your father and your mother, it means that you've reached this age of accountability, right? Where you have to have the integrity to not live according to your baggage, right? Whatever emotional damage or whatever, however your folks were, you should live your life in a way that people should think that your parents were the most amazing people on the planet, right? So people should be like, dang man, your character is good. You have a great work ethic and stuff like that, and man, your parents, man, they must have raised you right, right? And so that's the impression when the word says honor your father and your mother, that's what it means. Right? You should have a life that you live with honor, where people just think that, man, your parents must have been amazing. They raised you right, right? Without ever even knowing your parents, they should just have respect for your parents, right? Honoring your father and mother doesn't mean that you're obliged to have, because you may not be able to get along with your folks, right? There's that. It's like some people can't communicate with their parents. Their parents there may be such a toxic environment there that they can't get along with them, right? Their parents, may be abusive. They could have been, molesters or anything like that. And they just may not be able to have a relationship with their parents. And so what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to, when you read honor your father and your mother, despite these evil things that they've done, are you supposed to be like, oh, my precious mom and dad and all that sort of stuff? It's like, no, that's not what that means. Number one, you're supposed to forgive them, right? And if you're able to forgive your parents, that again shows your great character. And it's like, dang, man, your parents must have been amazing, because you're just you seem like such a peaceful, a peaceful person, right? Even though your parents just may have been some tyrants, right? Abusive and all that sort of stuff. But the impression that they get from you should be that your parents were amazing. But, and like I said, despite of how bad, if I may use the word bad, your parents may have been, you never slander your parents, right? You never curse your parents, of course, and you never be physically violent towards your parents, right? So these are also aspects of honoring your parents. Can you disagree with your parents? Can you disassociate with your parents? Sure, as long as you have forgiven them, but you understand it. Look, we can't have a relationship, right? There's too much toxicity there, but I forgive you, and you be you and you be me. That's not dishonoring your parents. But if you get out there and you're slandering your parents and you're living your life like a knucklehead, that does not honor your parents. It brings you no honor, and it definitely doesn't honor God, right? So I appreciate that what Curtis has seen in my observation on that commandment to honor your father and mother. And just like it says, if you don't get that straight, God will revisit some hardships on you, right? Because what happens, y'all, is that the cycle keeps going. If you don't have that sense of honor, you're going to pass on that dishonorable conduct to your kids, and then so on and so forth, right? And at some point, a generation has to be, and sometimes those run generation. It's almost like a natural course, right? So like a natural human behavior. And God's just like, yeah, you're going to have some problems for a few generations, because you guys don't understand what it is to honor, right? You don't understand what honor is, and bringing honor to your family, bringing honor to your father and mother, right? Let me see. G-Man also commented on it. He says that is the best. G-Man spells Geeman. G-Man. That is the best explanation I have ever heard of honoring one's parents. I'm embarrassed to admit I never saw it this correct way. I thank you that you deem it as a correct observation on this commandment. You may not get along with your parents, but don't, yeah, exactly. And so, and he goes on to say, I'm 64 now. Hey, I guess it's never too late, to get the word of God into focus, right? So yeah, that's what it comes down to, y'all. So just to recap, honoring your father and mother, live your life, in a way, first up that honors God, and to where people are just like, man, your parents must be amazing, even if you don't get along with your folks. But again, even if you don't get along with your folks, don't curse your folks. Don't slander your folks. And by all means, of course, do not bring violence into it, because, the Lord says, hey, you take that son, or, you take that evil offspring of yours, you take them outside the village and you go upside their head with a rock, if they're violent towards their parents. So, don't do things like that. Of course, that's like a given, right? So let's see. And then we got Mikey. Mikey says, I'm not kidding when I tell you this series is changing my life. He's talking about the virtue signal, the work that Bill Whittle and I are doing, right? He says, I'm not kidding when I tell you that this series is changing my life. I just got a job, and the first thing I'm going to do is donate to this cause when I get my check, not my stimulus check. He says that in parentheses. Hey, well, thank you, man. That's a blessing, and I'm glad that the word, man, is resonating to you. To God be the glory, man, because that's what we're trying to do. Is because that's what I bring to the table, not some sort of motivational speak. I'm just saying, hey, man, this is who the Lord is. And the thing is, y'all, when you get down to seeing who the Lord is, that's what gets you pumped, man. I mean, when you it's like there's a lot of people out there, they're preaching, prosperity, and this is your season and all that sort of stuff. And I don't knock what the word of God can do, man. But if you really want to get pumped, and I'm talking about the kind of, where it's just like, it's just an ongoing, it's an ongoing drive, man, is when you get to know who Jesus is. Just dig him for who he says he is. When you get to it, oh man, that was you? That was all. Yeah, man. Jesus, like, yeah, that's me. That gets you pumped, man. I'm telling you, it's more than anything else. So I'm glad that this went down to the bone with Mikey here, and and he feels that this is a cause worth contributing to. And I hope that y'all feel the same way, that y'all head on over to that tip jar in the link provided, and help us bring these productions to you. And we want to bring them to you in more creative ways, y'all. We can reason together. You guys we're already wired for that, right? We're on each other's frequency, so praise be to God, we get that. But there's other people that reasoning with them it's not so much that it's hard, it's just not a language that they speak, not in this fashion, right? They have to be approached a different way. And that's what we're trying to do. We want to be able to make those ways where we can cast that net a little further and capture people's imaginations, the way that liberals do, but they use it to promote lies to these people. We want to use it to convey truth to them, right? We got Ken Nichols, who says that sanity is not being conserved, because that's while during the course of the virtue signal, I said, we're trying, as conservatives, we're trying to conserve sanity, in the culture. So I guess Ken took that and suggested that I was saying that sanity is not being conserved. Okay. And says, okay, but what's really happening is that they are using insanity as a weapon, because no one can reason with a psycho, right? That's one way to get us all to shut up. Okay, let me see. Okay, he says that what's really happening is that they're using insanity as a weapon. Yeah, they're using insanity as a weapon. Maybe like the same way that a lion uses its claws as a weapon. It's just something that it is what it is, right? It's just part of their body. And yeah, they use it as a weapon. They can use it as tools, but it's not like see, with Democrats and with the left, it's just a natural part of their behavior, right? That's just in their behavior to do it. So and it's kind of difficult to say if they're using it as as like some sort of innovative weapon, like a something that they've created, right? This weapon that they've created to use against us. No, this insanity that they have, and it is kind of like a form of insanity, because when you can just put the truth in front of somebody, they still reject it and assume that they can present their own truth. That in a way is like a mental illness, right? It's like you're still functional in society to some capacity, but it's contributing to a lot of pitfalls in our culture, if you will. But these people, because it's such a natural part of their behavior, it's not like some sort of weapon that they've innovated, this insanity. However, what they do create are means to be able to deploy it, right? Whether it be through the news, whether it be through entertainment, social programs that they demand for after school and all that sort of stuff. So they have ways that they implement or they deploy this insanity. But as far as the insanity itself as a weapon, that's just a part of who they are. And I know it seems kind of abrasive to just say that, yeah, these people are insane. I mean, I got friends who are liberals, right? We may not talk much, but I still got love for them and stuff like that. And I don't want to say that they're insane. However, there is something going on here where it's like, dude, this is you assume that you can have your own truth, and that's just not healthy, right? There is nobody's own truth. There's only one truth. And when you can look at something so obvious and you're gonna dismiss that and say that it could be something else, dude, that's not well. All right, that's brain sick. Okay. So now when we talk about conserving sanity, y'all, when we talk about conserving sanity, and once again, y'all, thank you guys so much who are dropping in for this for this chop up that we got, man. I appreciate y'all's fellowship, man. If I don't call you guys out by name, just please understand I'm just trying to stay focused. You know what I'm saying? I'm a horrible host that way. But see, I already forgot what I was going to say, trying to be polite and stuff. But okay, we were talking about conserving sanity. That's what I was talking about. We're trying to conserve sanity in this republic. And so this person, I guess, called me out and just questioning me talking about conserving sanity. Well, an example of conserving sanity, y'all, would be like conservatives, when we recognize, and Trump kept saying this too, we need to get our kids back in school. But, at the same time, when we're calling schools indoctrination camps. Okay, how are you going to keep calling schools, which they are, our schools have become indoctrination camps. But if schools are indoctrination camps, why do we have so many conservatives out there who are calling these places indoctrination camps? Why do you have so many conservatives out there saying we need to get our kids back in school? Okay, that's not conserving sanity. Right? That is contributing to the erosion, to the squandering of sanity is what that is. That's insane. Why would we keep demanding sending our kids to the institutions where they're being indoctrinated with godless ideologies? Why would we do that? Why weren't we taking this time to be more innovative about how kids are going to get educated? Mainly mentored. Not just educated, y'all, but mentored by their parents, right? We've been herded into a system where we think that, we have to pursue a career and then send our kids off to school so they can be influenced by godless people. Paul warned about this stuff. Like I said, man, what are you sending your these issues to the godless for? In every way, you guys are like allowing yourselves to be judged. Your education is a judgment. Your strife with each other. You send these things to the godless for them to rule over you. Why do you do that? Right? And it's the same way, and don't get me wrong, y'all, because I tell anybody, man, if God has given you a passion to do something, pursue it, get educated in it, make a career of it, and do it. Right? But you have to understand that if you have kids and you go to pursue your career and you send your kids off to the godless, or not even aware of what it is for a person to be godless, or you send them off to the state who assumes to be God and stuff like that, you're going to have some consequences on what they're going to pass on to your kids, right? They got more influence on your kids than you do, right? So being educated is great, but a parent is like, look, you want to pursue your career? Be mentoring your kid, right? Your kid should be with you. Yeah, it's like they may be a nuisance at work. That's where that discipline comes in. That's why the Lord says, hey, make sure you got that rod, right? Because your kid's going to, it's like, hey, but I told you to, but see, the state, because they're against the word of God, the state has made it a stigma to spank your kids. You can't spank your kids, right? You're going to be stigmatized for that. They've taken away the disciplining tools away from parents. Right? But yeah, you should be able to have your kid at work. Your kid start getting out of line and starts getting in the way of the work. You should be able to show them that belt. Say, hey, what's up? Right? We got a problem. You need to sit your behind down, and I'm trying to do some work right here. Okay? And your kids should be shadowing you and should be learning from you. Right? You should be your kid's mentor, your first influence. Right? As the authority in God in your family. Right? And passing on that to your kids. And then and there may be areas where you may not have the skills to teach your kids, like math or reading and stuff like that. Some people are better doing that than others. And you can have, if you want to have a supplemental educator, it's like you want to have somebody come in and give some strong pointers on how they can become a better reader and stuff like that. But that educator shouldn't be spending more time with your kid than you. Right. But we've been forced it. It's not, and people don't mean to be like that. We got. It's a frog boiling technique. We just got immersed in this, man, to where now we think it's the norm, to where you're supposed to send your kids off to school and while you go do this. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to have more influence over your kids than the school system does, right? How's that turning out for us? It ain't turning out that good, right? So this education, these specialties, right? If a person has a specialty in teaching things, a specialty in teaching math, a specialty in teaching reading and science and stuff like that, or maybe they might specialize in all of those things. But in those things, and if they're specialized to it, the education is going to be more concentrated, which means that they can spend less time with your kid and get more to your kid in all the time that it takes to send your kid to a school 5 days a week, 8 or so hours a day, right? While they're influencing your kids. But a supplemental educator coming in who has that specialty and can concentrate these things, these edifications to your kid, they're not going to need to spend as much time with your kid and have all that much more influence over your kid than the parent does. See, these are things that we should be doing. There should be a market of this, y'all, a bigger market. And I'm not talking about just like tutors. I'm talking about specialized educators who can come in and know how to really just bring some concentrated skills to your kid that a parent may not have. Some parents may be really good in teaching math and reading and stuff like that, and they can teach these things to their kids while they mentor them. You may not need a supplemental educator, but in some cases there may need to be that. The Word of God talks about this. Some people are talented to be teachers. We need these people. That's a good thing, right? It's a good thing to have somebody come in and really help your kid to take it to the next level with these learning tools and fundamentals of learning. That's a good thing. But once again, it should be supplemental, right? And concentrated. The influence that they should have should be very minimal. Definitely not more than what than a parent should have, right? Anyway, so that when we talk about conserving sanity, that's what I'm talking about. It's not conserving sanity, y'all, when we send our kids off to the godless, to be influenced by them 8 hours or so a day, right? That's not conserving sanity. Let's see. Brooke Lou says that, gosh, Zoe is just on point at all times. Well, thank you. And makes my heart hurt that he won't run for president. What a guy. What a real and true man. God bless these fellas. Well, thank you. I'm trying to get my head from getting all swollen here. But I guess when we talk about a president, I think probably one of the biggest indicators of a person being a good president would be a person who doesn't want to be. And if not wanting to be president is a good sign of what would make a good president, then I reckon I would be the best president ever. Because if it's one thing I don't want to be as president. But thank you so much. And y'all, political office is not always the answer, y'all. There's a lot of work that needs to be done spiritually, culturally, before it can really hold up politically, y'all. Becoming a politician or an elected official or appointee, a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of people, they see a lot of salvation in that, so they feel like some sort of official meaning in that. My person, my guy, my gal got elected, and they feel like, oh, there's hope in that, and things are going to change. And it's like, no, there's a lot of changes that need to be made culturally, and it's not, the politician isn't always the rescue. Matter of fact, in rare occasions are they going to be the rescue. There's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done spiritually and culturally before this stuff can be reflected politically. and held up. So I hope folks will be as willing to, because I see people, man, and be like, man, run for office. If you run for office, I'll make sure to contribute to your campaign and stuff like that. It's like, why? How about y'all help me like right now? It's like, contribute to my cause now. Going into political office ain't the answer. It's politicians don't make America great. People using their God-giving talents to be of service. That's what makes America great. Our freedom to be able to do that and uphold it in the culture itself, rather than having some politician try to make it the law that we do this. It's already the law. We're supposed to already be free to do these things. And we're supposed to be making the best and the most of it, and show our willingness to serve and be of service to people with our products and our skills and things like that. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's a bigger impact in the culture than a politician has. So, I mean, if folks really want to support that, if I may, because like I said, I used to get that. I don't get as often as I used to, but I remember when before the shadow banning and stuff like that, people say that all the time, man, run for office. I'll support you. I'll support your campaign. I'm like, the campaign that I'm running right now is a cultural campaign, not a political campaign. I'm running a spiritual campaign. That's where your money would really be better spent. To tell you the truth, y'all, we don't have a cultural defense, y'all. We don't have that. Conservatives, I hope y'all understand that. We don't have a cultural defense. That's why we're getting spanked in the culture. They're burning us up in the culture, and it translates into politics. And conservatives really need to understand that. But conservatives, they want to support a politician. They got money for a politician. They want to support that campaign. It's like, no, dude, there's a cultural campaign that is starving for contributions and support. There's a spiritual campaign that needs to be supported, right? And it's just not really being done. People are waiting for this official political stamp, and y'all, it's not working. It doesn't work. All right. Let's see. Let's go to Mike Steves. Mike Steves says, Alfonso could have used the Bible to explain how conservatives assisted the left, just as simply Proverbs 26:4-5 says, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Mike Stevens. But what I don't agree with is that maybe not listen to a lot of my work. I do. The conversation that I have is going to be based on the Word of God. And let's keep in mind that, it is a conversation, right? It's not going to be a conversation if the only thing I keep saying is, well, according to 2 Peter, and according to this. Now, I say that sometimes, but we're supposed to have a conversation, not a recital, right? So whatever I'm going to say, I'm going to try my best to base it on the Word of God, and definitely, give verses to back it up. I do use verses like, say, for instance, the Lord says to not cast your pearls before pigs, because pigs, they're basically going to drag you under and they'll tear you up, right? As I guess maybe that's been paraphrased and saying, don't argue with an idiot because they'll beat you with experience. So, things like that, we do make sure we go to. But I agree. I said that's a good verse to go to. You don't want to give these people fodder and stuff like that. And you don't want to help these people stumble. You don't want to help a person put their hand to evil and stuff like that, and embolden them to do evil things, or respond to them in ways that give them more footing, or give them ways to be able to use. You don't want to help give them the armament to just use against you by saying, see how this person is. And you don't want to give them the material to do that. So I totally hear what you're saying. But to say that, it's almost like implying that, I don't offer up these things, and if you look at my broader body of work, of course I do. But like I said, we're trying to have a conversation, right? Not necessarily a recital, right? I read the Bible, not Al Quran. Al Quran means the recital, right? So I read the Bible, man. And of course, we want to make sure that the scriptures are in us. That way, when we have the conversation, that our conversation is squared up, with the Word of God, and that's where we're coming from. But thank you. Still a good verse to point to, Mike. Let's see. Kelly Defunk says, is there a reference, please, for MLK Jr. as a professed Republican. I don't think you're going to find it, Kelly D. It's one of those things where it's like logic dictates that he would be. I can't say that there is this solid evidence of him voting one or him saying it, or if there's a registration for if he was. It seems like there is, but I tell you what though, there's been a lot of scrubbing on the internet. Things are getting more and more difficult to find, right? Conservatives, when you see stuff when you see these evidences in history that point to who the Democrats are and point to who Republicans have been and stuff like that, you might want to capture that stuff, download it, because the internet is being scrubbed of stuff. The stuff is getting a lot more difficult to find. And trying to find evidence of Martin Luther King being a Republican is a lot more difficult. Like I said, it's just one of those things where there's elements that add up to that he would have been. Like say, for instance, his father. His father was a Republican. Martin Luther King Sr. was a registered Republican. He voted Republican. Martin Luther King was fighting Democrats. Okay, that's the Jim Crow laws, the revocation of civil rights, the revocation of voter rights, things like that. All this stuff was instituted by the Democrat Party. This was going on in Democrat states, Democrat counties, Democrat mayors. All these people were against him. Everybody that Martin Luther King was fighting against, they were Democrats. So it stands to reason that Martin Luther King knew who his enemies were. It does show that, Martin Luther King Sr. Went to bat for Democrats, because they wanted to get Martin Luther King freed from jail and stuff like that. And people say, will say that Martin Luther King Jr. switched sides, became a Democrat, voted for Kennedys and stuff like that, and they went to bat for the Kennedys. I don't know if it was really that simple, right? It may have gone a little bit something like that. Hey, Martin Luther King Sr., if you want to make sure that your son gets out of jail safely, you might want to give an endorsement for the Democrats. And it ain't like the Democrats aren't notorious for using black folks to get what they want, right? So, and by coercive means. So there's that element that goes in there. We don't exactly know how that full conversation could have went. But like I said, it's like the logic kind of dictates that Martin Luther King would have been a Republican, being that Democrats were the policy writers that he was fighting in the first place. So, it's not far-fetched. But to say that I have the solid evidence that Martin Luther King, here it is, I voted Republican and stuff like that, I don't have that. Let's see. I wouldn't know who does. Let's see. We got Robert Miller. Okay, this one's a little bit lengthy, but I like what he has to say, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. I think it's worth sharing. Mike Miller says, one of the big problems with conservatives is a failure to grasp the importance of controlling the frame. I would say, as God as your guide to help control the frame. But I get what he's saying. He who controls the frame, he who controls the frame controls the discussion. Conservatives just roll over and cede control of the frame to the left. And that's largely because they don't even have any idea it is happening. He goes on to say, and this is Robert Miller. Robert Miller goes on to say, that is, the left controls the frame to push conservatives into defending positions that are not the position in contention, or to become bogged down in a subject area that is merely a distraction from the actual important points. Robert Miller goes on to say, and while conservatives are being distracted by these other things, they aren't arguing the points that are important and winnable. The point is stop allowing them to control the frame. Take control of the frame and insist on not getting distracted, and insist on focusing the conversation on the important points that they cannot deny. For purposes of illustration, Robert Miller goes on to say, the left frames the abortion debate as one of choice. That's not the dispute. Why do conservatives allow the left to make that the debate? The issue is one of murder, and murder is not a choice one gets to make. It's not a matter, or I think maybe he meant being murdered. Being murdered is not a choice that one's, if I could add that clarification there. It's not a matter of controlling one's body. It's not a matter of privacy. But the left uses all these framing devices to distract from the actual point of objection that conservatives actually have with it. And conservatives let them. I'm not saying I'm taking a position one way or other. It's just a glaring example of something that is obvious to me, where I see conservatives allowing themselves to be steamrolled, allowing the other side to control the frame because they won't keep the focus and insist on pushing the actual objection they have. I agree with a lot of that, Robert. I agree with a lot of that. And and I would also add with like when it comes to abortion, see, for too long, Republicans, and you have a lot of prominent conservatives or Republican voters, in the media, who will say things like, stay away from the abortion argument. And I'm like, why would you? And I talk about this in my audiobook, A Solid Right Cross. And I've talked about it in my other audiobook, A Weapon of Mass Destruction. A big mistake that a lot of Republicans fell for is to avoid the discussion. That didn't work out. Okay, that doesn't work. You can't avoid the discussion. People, have all these conservatives talk about stay away from the social issues. Stay away from the social issues. Don't bring up abortion. Don't bring up gay marriage. Stay away from these social issues. Huge mistake. Huge. Number one, liberals never avoid the social issues. I hope conservatives have figured that out by now, and I've been trying to tell them for years. Liberals don't avoid social issues. You can't avoid the issue because they're going to bring it up. All right? Conservatives don't have to bring up abortion. Conservatives don't have to bring up gay marriage. They don't have to bring up any of these things. Liberals are going to bring it up. But what you do need to be ready for is to be able to have that fight. And conservatives, because they've been told to avoid the issue, we're not ready for the fight, right? They didn't train each other up. Doesn't the word of God say iron sharpen iron? We're supposed to be trained up in these things. Well, conservatives weren't trained up, and they didn't know how to respond to these things because they're always told to ignore it. Stay away from social issues. Stay away from abortion. Stay away from gay marriage. That's what they're told, right? While Democrats are sharpening their arguments for it because they're always practicing, because they're always bringing it up, right? So yes, he's right. They frame the arguments. They frame it. And conservatives too often don't know how to respond. So now, because of this, liberals have taken it from this issue, this pro-choice issue, to pro-reproductive health issue, to flat out pro-healthcare, right? These are the strides that they've made. And these are the imprints that they've made in the culture. While conservatives are like, well, how did we get here? Well, you got there because you were encouraged to ignore the issue. Who cares what these people think, right? We should just ignore them. Just stay away from these issues. That's what conservatives were told, right? Look what it got us, all right? So, yes, I agree. In terms of how the argument is going to be framed. And they frame the argument that this is some sort of healthcare issue and that it's some sort of choice issue. And also, let me see what else he says in here. I thought was kind of interesting. I hope I can find it. Let me see. Distracted when he's talking about these distractions. You got to be prepared for the distractions too, right? It's not just about not getting distracted, y'all. It's a point of being able. It's like, oh, you tried to distract. We got to know how to take the distractions that they try to bring up and use that against them as well, right? Sometimes the distractions themselves can be a blessing, right? That's more. You can use that distraction. That's more artillery for you, right? But a lot of time, once again, y'all, and mark me on this because it's another warning that I'm giving you, right? I don't want it to be like another 10 years down the road when I'm saying, dude, why didn't you guys use their distractions? But y'all, you can use the left's distractions again, all these things. I'll give you an example. You probably heard me give this analogy before. It's like playing Scrabble with somebody, right? And the person is, and they're making up words on the Scrabble board, and you know that it's a made up word, right? But instead of like being all, I'm going to challenge that word or something like that, instead of challenging, go ahead and use. They tried to cheat, use it against them. You're not the one who's cheating. You're the one busting them in their cheat. But if they're going to try to cheat, use it against them. Say, okay, well, fine. Well, in you trying to cheat, you just gave me some more letters to be able to make some more words with, or whichever, right? So, but conservatives don't do that. They'll ignore that, right? They'll see this person obviously cheating on the board, right? And either just go with it, or it could be an instance where they don't have enough evidence. Or they can have all the evidence in the world, but they'll try to challenge it, and end up and may even prove, they may prove that person right. I mean, they may prove that they were right, that this person did cheated, but it may not help them, right? It's like, do you really, it's like, okay, use some strategy here. This person just put a word on the board. Not that I'm a Scrabble expert or anything. I don't do Scrabble tournaments and stuff like that. I'm just trying to give you guys an analogy, okay? I'm not a Scrabble nerd. All right. But dig it. Okay, here you got this word that this person just created, gave you enough vowels and consonants or whatever, where you can build a couple of words on. They tried to cheat. What you gonna try to do? You're gonna be like, no, I'm gonna challenge that word because I know that's not a real word. And then they go ahead and they lose their turn. Now, what can you build off the word? It's like, dang, man, it's like, no, you might not be able to build as much on calling them out, as you can. You might be able to, but if it's really obvious that you can really take them to task by like building some other words off of that word that they tried to cheat with, do it. Right? They take that distraction and really throw it back at them. Because if anything, you might really teach them a lesson. Be like, yeah, try to cheat again. Whenever you try to cheat, I'm gonna put it back on you threefold. Right? May make them reluctant to try to cheat again. You see what I'm saying? So once, like I said, you can call them out on it and prove that you're right. Say, oh, you were cheating, and you're busted on it. That person may try it again, right? But if you're able to take their cheat, it's one thing to catch them cheating, y'all. Let me just say it like this. It's one thing to catch a person cheating. It's another thing to make a person regret that they cheated when you take what they cheated with and you nail them with their own cheating. When you use their own cheat against them, not just bust them in a cheat, but use their cheating against them and make them really sorry that they did it. That's a whole nother thing. That's another psychological warfare, man, that kind of makes a person a little slow on trying to use some nonsense like that on you again, right? Not saying that they won't, because some people are dumb like that. Some people will try again anyway, but chances are a little bit less, right? We got, okay, so a couple of people, let me see. I saw the comment right there, man. I hear you, man. Mr. Nunes, sorry if I said your name wrong. Says conservatives are terrible at improvising and turning table. Yeah, all too, and myself included, man. I tell you, man. Sometimes, you just caught up in trying to make an honest living. You're not thinking about, trying to bob and weave and rope-a-dope and stuff like that, because you're just trying to make an honest living. And so I understand for conservatives, it can be difficult to be trained up in these things and training for this adaptation and stuff like that. But it may not be so much of a point. That's just how we naturally are, that we're naturally not as, improvising and creative and things like that. It's some of, because there's a personality matrix that goes along with these things. But at the same time, to sharpen up on being those things, well, that takes time. That's a whole nother lifestyle. It's a lifestyle change that a person has to do when you're just trying to make an honest living, and just be a contributor to society. So, that's the downside to it. But, there should be support for those who are saying, hey, we need to go ahead and do this. We know that you're just trying to make a living. You just want to enjoy your God-given rights. But those things still have to be defended. And where you don't have the time to do that and may not have the propensity to do that, support people who do want to make it an effort to help protect what you have in the culture. Let me see. Baseball in Heaven. Baseball in Heaven says reprogramming starts with language. We have to stop defining the left as liberals. There is no similarity between the two ideologies. See, y'all, I'm telling y'all, these are the people who are messing things up for us, right? So basically this person is admonishing me, saying that we have to stop, because I'm one of those kind of people that says liberal. Yeah, that's exactly what these people are. They're liberals, right? I hope you guys get my audio book, A Solid Right Cross, and you'll hear why. So there is no similarity between the two ideologies. Oh, yes, there is, right? So when you go into the left end of the spectrum, and I'm not in agreement with, how they place the different worldviews on both sides of the left and right ends of the spectrum. But it is pretty basically true that when you go towards the left end of the spectrum, it is going to be people's entitlements facilitated by either social reliance or state reliance. And at the end of the day, it's all still state reliance. It's going to be the state that is going to be given the power or has taken the power to pull from the people and ration out how they see fit, right? So that all the industry is owned by the state, and the money that you make is owned by the state and stuff like that. And basically the people are properties of the state, and depending on how, whether it's socialism or ultimately communism in this full-blown, totalitarian state that they'll have, it's still going to be a dependency state, whether you're made to believe that, oh, we're just socially dependent on each other. We are our brother's keeper. And it's an institution that is still a forced institution, or whether it's just full on the state is basically God, and people are reliant on the state, and the state rations out, what people are going to get. And whatever you thought was entitled to was a big joke, because no, you're just going to get what the state gives you. But that's going to be towards the left end of the spectrum. And it still comes down to what people feel entitled to. These assumed liberties, right? That they've ended up losing, right? Because it's like killing the goose that laid the golden egg. People have these sense of entitlement, what they think that they should have, and these things should be facilitated to them. Well, that's going towards the left end of the spectrum, and that is all about liberalism. See, people need to understand, when we talk about liberalism, how do you define it, right? How do you define liberalism? Liberalism according to what? Because even if you do try to be liberal, you could be a conservative talking about liberalism, but even at the end of the day, if you're going to be a liberal or a classical liberal, you still got to be conservative about it, because if you don't keep liberalism in check, it goes very sideways. And that's just the nature of liberalism. So you got to understand liberalism according to what? Because liberalism can be anything to anybody. Who is anybody to make any sorts of rules about it, right? Well, it's, we should have the freedom of conscience and freedom to do this and freedom to that. Yeah, anybody could say that. And somebody's freedoms can intrude upon your freedoms. That's liberalism too, because that's what liberalism does. Who are you to tell somebody how to define what's liberty to them, right? So you think that liberalism is just, well, I should have the freedom to think whatever I want. Okay, the freedom to think whatever, I got it. And I think that should be policy. Okay, so that should be policy. What is this freedom that you're thinking that should be policy, that people should be ruled by, right? Because I can guarantee you somebody else is going to think that's oppressive, right? See, liberalism cancels itself out, just the way that leftist ideology cancels itself out. You're going to end up imposing what you think is liberty on somebody else. That's what liberalism does. That's its natural course, right? So when I say liberal, and liberalism always, no matter how well-meaning or how enlightened or how well-intentioned you think it is, and it's just all about liberty and stuff like that, this is what liberalism ultimately does. You will be liberal with somebody else's liberty. You will be liberal with taxing people's money, liberal with spending people's money, liberal with borrowing money, liberal with making laws. You are going to take all sorts of liberties that are going to outweigh any sort of well-intentioned liberties that you think that you wanted to make policy. That's what liberalism does. All right. So I considered this. Y'all don't think that I call liberals because I don't know what else to call them. That's what liberalism does. Because liberalism is so caught up with the pursuit of liberty that you will sacrifice things unnecessarily for this premium of liberty. Case in point, that's why liberals are typically abortion, because they feel like they have the liberty and the entitlement to take life away from another human being. That's freedom to them. That's liberty to them. That's liberalism. All right. And who are you to tell them that that's not liberty? Because they have the freedom to think that if they want to. Right. So it's your liberalism versus somebody else's liberalism. And it's going to cancel itself out, just as leftist ideology does. All right. So I'm going to continue calling them liberals. All right. And when you decide that you're not going to call them liberals, what you're doing is that you're helping to mask their trail. You're helping them mask who they are. Right. You don't want to do that. Liberals, when the last person we talked about, when we talk about controlling the language, right? Or actually, it was this person. When we talk about reprogramming starts with language, you got to get the language straight before you can assume to reprogram or deprogram, right? We're trying to free program. Right? I'm not trying to reprogram anybody. I'm not trying to I'm talking about free program, right? And when you have, and you help liberals out, because liberals are always switching around terms. Yeah, they control the language. And people like this help them do it. And when you decide that you don't want to call them liberals, you're helping them switch the narrative around again, and you're helping them distract, right? If they're going to distract, help to use it against them. This stuff is not doing that. What I just told you is helping to use it against them, right? So when you try to delabel them and stuff like that, don't do that. Don't do that. They want to be liberals, call them out on it. Say, yeah, okay, yeah, you are a liberal. And this is what liberalism does, right? Just like I said, being a liberal is going to assume to take liberties with your liberty. And that's how we're losing our liberties, right? So now we got null entry. Null entry says Roosevelt perverted the word liberal. Tell Zoe to stop using the false liberal conservative dichotomy. No. Liberalism was already perverted. All right, it didn't take Roosevelt to do that. It was already a perversion of ideology. This goes way back. Like I said, liberalism according to what? Liberalism itself is going to cancel itself out, because when you have this premium of liberty and you think that you can do whatever you want, right? No matter how responsible you think you are. Oh, it's, we're going to be liberal, and we should have as long as I don't intrude on somebody else's liberty and stuff like that. Anybody can tell themselves that, right? And who is anybody to say this is the standard of what it is, and you can't? Well, automatically that's not liberalism, because you can't put a standard on it. It's living. The law is living. It's moving. That's what liberalism is. It's always going to assume to have the liberty to be able to change the statutes on things according to the times. Who are you to tell a person that they can't? You can't do that, because that is antithetical to what liberalism is. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't work, right? So like I said, I talk about this in my audiobook, A Solid Right Cross, because people talk about classical liberalism and stuff like that. Y'all, the classical liberal is the devil himself. Before who we talk about these cats, man? What is it? Montesquieu and these classical writers and stuff like that. Forgive me if I get their names wrong and stuff like that. But these aren't your forefathers of liberalism and stuff like that. The devil is the forefather of liberalism, right? He is the one is the first true liberal. Was the devil, right? And he showed that right in the Garden of Eden, right? Even before that, but he showed it in the Garden of Eden, right? You got God, gave Adam and Eve, look at what he gave them by grace, hooked them up. I'm talking hooked them up fabulously. And these people, they were free from death. They were free from disease, right? Gainfully employed. They had it all. They had it all. And here comes the devil. That's not really freedom. You want to know what real freedom is? And then from there, the lie comes in. You got the devil who found, because remember, y'all, a liberal is going to look for oppression. A liberal just wants liberty, right? And they can find oppression in anything. So, and what can be totally liberating, they will find as oppressive. And that's what the devil did. Despite the liberation that Adam and Eve had, the devil comes in and calls it oppression. That's what a liberal does. And tried to tell them that this is real liberty. And he made the satanic frame and gave them his truth, right? And they accepted that in the pursuit of being, of having the liberty to know what God knows, right? Yeah, that's liberalism. That's what the devil brought. This is liberalism, guys. Now you're going to be really woke. Now you're really free. And in this deception of freedom, they shackled us all, right? So that's what liberalism does. And I'm not making a mistake at all when I call Democrats liberals. I am not making a mistake at all when I call leftists liberals, all right? Let's see. We got liberals succeeding in spreading lie. Hold on. Do I want to read that one? Let me see. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Conservatism is responsibility, and it's hard to sell responsibility over the opposite, which is liberalism. That's right. See, there's a person who gets it. He understands what's up, right? And liberals are very successful in spreading lies about us, right? Lies, they just sell really good. It's easier to sell than the truth. But it doesn't mean the truth can't be sold, right? Just got to find creative ways to do it. That's what we got to do, right? Link 7057 is going to chew me out and says, let me see. Zoe, you need to stop with this idea of not owning the Confederates as Americans. Okay, y'all, here's another one, y'all. I'm trying to tell you, y'all wonder why I keep talking about this stuff, because these are the people who are ruining it for us. I'm telling you, not just ruining it for Republican voters, but ruining it for the country. People like this, who vote, I'm assuming is among Republican voters. This is why we lose right here. Okay, Link 7057 says, Zoe, you need to stop this idea of not owning the Confederates as American history, because guess what? The Civil War is American history. And I'm sure you want that to be a part of the history books. Can't have a Civil War without the Confederates. Also, your logic doesn't work, because look at Planned Parenthood. They know what it was founded on, but they are rewriting history to black out Margaret Sanger and claim it is not about her anymore. Why would they just do that to Confederates? Why would they just do that to Confederates if we just threw it on their shoulders? No, if you allow them to rewrite and erase the Confederates, then they can rewrite other parts of history. Okay, this person didn't hear anything I said. This person is so caught up with Confederate pride and American pride, which it doesn't matter. American pride can be just as toxic, right? You should be grateful Americans rather than prideful Americans. But this person is so full of their pride concerning these things that they didn't even hear what I said. Number one, I never said erase Confederate history. I've never said that. Matter of fact, I've been one of the people out there saying that you should keep the statues up, right? I've been as loud as a voice as I can, even though I'm shadow banned. I keep trying to tell people, no, you don't take the statues down. You leave them up. But if you're gonna leave them up, make sure people know where they came from. Conservatives don't do that. You got cats like that out there talking about it's American history. It's American history. It's like, no. Don't do that. It's Democrat history, right? Now, the Confederacy was a rebellious faction against the United States of America. They had their own constitution written up by the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party was rebels against the Constitution then. They're rebels against the Constitution now. And this is where conservatives keep dropping the ball, because of people like this, right? People like this. This is how too much of conservatives think. And this is why we're losing, right? So I never said to erase the history. I said, make sure you know where this history comes from. Democrats are enemies of America. They have been. They're still at war with the Constitution today. They were at war with the Constitution with the Confederacy. They're the ones who made the Confederacy. They're the ones who made up their own constitution for the Confederacy and went to war against the Constitution of the United States. That's who Democrats are. And that's what I've been trying to tell you. While you got these people out there, Confederate history is American history, American history. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah. You might want to make sure that people know that it's Democrat history, because while you're saying it's American history, they're going to take that and they're going to assign it to you, Republicans. And that's why people think that the parties have switched sides. And that's why they don't trust you, because you keep giving the Democrats a pass. That's what this person is doing. This is why we lose. So this person is trying to say that what I'm saying doesn't work. That's not true. That's not true. To say that what I'm telling people to do doesn't work, man, who's listening to me? But very few people. Just this blessed few right now that I got is who's listening to me. What to say that what I'm saying doesn't work is totally illogical, because what I'm talking about has not been tried. People mostly in the Conservative Party think like this person. This is the stuff that they're trying. This is the stuff that's proven to not work. This is what y'all ran with. Okay? Y'all listen to people like this. Too many conservatives do what this person is talking about. This is what cost us. You ain't listening to me. I don't understand how this person can come to the logical conclusion that what I'm talking about doesn't work. I'm one of the very few people who is espousing this. And in my audience, there's a few people who agree with me on it. But what voice do we have? So to say that what we're talking about doesn't work, it hasn't been tried. What this person is talking about is the way most of the conservative voter thinks, the way most Republican voters thinks. What this person is talking about, that's what's been tried, and that's what doesn't work. That's proven, right? And also, this person has also proven my point when he's talking about liberals with Margaret Sanger. That's also, he's totally misled about that too. because you got the liberal narrative out there talking about Hitler was inspired by America for eugenics, right? Now, as conservatives, most of us know that Hitler was inspired by Margaret Sanger, the Democrat. He was inspired by her, right? But now liberals are trying to make it to where Hitler was just inspired by America, right? So, and a lot of conservatives know that, but even still drop the ball in not calling out Democrats on these things. And we'll still go the route that this person goes, and we'll say that there's no systemic racism. Yes, there is, because there's Democrats. Conservatives drop the ball on that. There's no systemic racism, no systemic. Okay, well, really, then that means that Democrats were never guilty of anything. Now you have no weapons against them. You just threw away all the weapons that they gave you. If you say that there's no systemic racism, you say there's no white privilege and stuff like that. What do you think Jim Crow laws and stuff were? What do you think? What do you think is going on when they're killing off blacks in abortion mills? What do you think is going on when you got legions of liberal lawyers who are locking black folks up, and then they want to try to accuse you of a prison industrial complex? Yeah, there's systemic racism. Yes, there's white privilege. Yes, there is, because where there's Democrats, that's where there's going to be. But too many conservatives give them a pass. You don't know how to use their distractions against them. You see what I'm saying? The conservatives are dropping the ball on this long before Trump, and I've been trying to tell it for years. But you got people like this that are still out there. They're messing things up for you. Okay, I'm trying to tell you, when you see people like this, admonish them, right? Say, no, man, what you're saying is garbage. What you're saying is what helped get us into this place. Because as it is right now, y'all, because of people like this, they have made it very easy for Democrats to label the conservatives and Republican voters as racist. And they would rather, they've gotten too much of the country to where they would rather put up with this cheater, this lying nose molester that's out there who's got a Count Sniffula, who's got Kamala Harris in there. They would rather have these cheating hypocrites in office than have racists that they've made you out to be, right? That's what we've got. And I've been trying to tell conservatives, y'all, please understand. You see stuff like this, y'all, these people are a liability. They're saboteurs. They've screwed things up for us. I'm trying to tell Republican voters, the biggest weapon that Democrats have against the Republican Party is the race card. And people like this are the ones who keep charging it, right? So, y'all, that is what I've got for today. Don't fall into their traps, y'all. Don't fall into their traps. If they got distractions, use their distractions against them. Because I tell you what, a lot of their distractions, they're ripe for using it against you. It's usually just their distractions are usually a projection. It's an opportunity to call them out for who they really are. They're trying to accuse you of something. It's usually it's about them, and they've given you the fuel to go ahead and toss it right back at them, to load up your flamethrower and just burn them down with it. Not literally, right? And before people try to come out there and say, he's talking about waging violence. No, I'm not. All right. Anyway, y'all, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Jim, Patrick, Thomas, Magnus, what's up, y'all? Thank you guys so much for dropping in. My groovy woman, that Carrie Rachel, she's yeah. I don't want to get to, anyway. She's a hot one. So Aircraft Sparky, yeah, that's right, man. Thank you guys for coming in. If I missed anybody's name, I do apologize, but please know that I am very grateful. Douglas Craig, yeah, time for right on. Red Crew, thank you guys so much for stopping in. Michelle, Karen, Jose, yeah. Urban Interface, right on. Thank you guys so much for kicking it with me for a little bit as we did this signal response, and we will do it again soon. Blessings, y'all.